Alright, so today we're going to paint the die that we created earlier in Substance. Substance Painter is a three-dimensional drawing or painting program which allows you to paint materials and textures onto your 3D model. So we'll go to File, New. We'll choose Unreal Engine 4 Algorithmic Template. We're going to set the resolution to 4096. The bigger this number, the more that it costs in the game. But this is high resolution. And the file is going to be the static mesh that we chose, which is going to be sm_die. You can see that you have a 3D view and a 2D view, and you can move around with Alt, middle mouse button, left mouse button, right mouse button. And if you do Shift and right mouse, you can spin the light around. Now in the two-dimensional view, this is the UV map that we laid out earlier. And you'll see that if I start painting, if I go like this and I start painting, it'll start to hit these other sections. I don't know if it's kind of hard to see, but let me set the size of the brush a little bigger. You kind of see it's doing stuff up here. In order to fix that, we can right click on our brush, make sure you're in brush mode, and set the alignment to UV, and now it'll only paint on the UV. It won't spill off onto the other section. But if you were painting on here, it is going to just stay in that little area, and then if I wanted to do the inside, I'd have to paint the inside separately. So usually I would like to have it on the UV space when I'm painting alignment right there. Okay, so now that we understand how to move around a little bit, we're going to start with something pretty simple. Let's pick a material. So go to your materials over here. And we're going to choose a plastic gloss, pure, which means there's not really going to be much going on here. Pure, yeah, it just means that, you know, there's not going to be anything other than the gloss. Very shiny. No scratches, nothing like that. If you wanted to see what it would look like with like grainy plastic, you know, and you could even change the scale of this if you wanted it to be smaller or bigger or whatever. You could shrink it. But I'm going to just start with this glossy plastic, and we can change the color right here under layers. Under properties. You can see that it just created a new layer, and we're going to change the color of this. You could do white, you could do red, you could do any color you want, but I'll just make it white for now. And you can see how reflective it is, and if you wanted to adjust the reflectiveness, you could change the roughness. Very, very matte, very, very shiny. And it's a dye, so it's pretty shiny, something like that. And then the metallic, you don't probably want this to be metallic at all, so I'm going to keep it at 0. That makes it more plastic looking. So there's our base layer for the dye. Now I'm going to create another one, drag it on again. You'll see it creates a separate layer. And this one I'm going to make black. And again, I'm going to pull the roughness up. Something like that should work. But I only want to see this on the little dots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer mask. I'm going to right click on it and add a white mask so that you still see it all. And I'm going to use black on these sections right here. So if I scroll down, I can change this color to black. I'll right click and choose a brush. If I want to go to my brushes here, I can choose a basic hard brush, nice and big. And you can see it does that. Now why is it spilling off the edge? Well, that's because, once again, I have to set this to UV for the alignment, and then it won't spill over. That's going to take some time. It's kind of painstaking, and it'd be hard to get it just perfect. As you can see, I'm going to make little mistakes there. So, is there an easier way? Well, yes, there is. We're going to do polygon fill. And with polygon fill, we want to use black on our mask. And I'm just going to draw some squares here, and it'll fill in those sections. And again, what it's doing, since we're using a layer mask, is it's just making these invisible. It's using black on them, just like in Photoshop. Okay, and you can see I accidentally got white right there. That's okay, I can fix that later. I just use over here I'll just use white, and it's kind of opposite of what you think, because I'm using black and it makes it look white, but remember it's a mask, so I'm just not showing the black layer above it, if that makes any sense, because remember this is a layer of black color that we're adding here. Pull down on that, get these guys, that guy, and these guys, and then switch back over to white to get that one back. So a quick scan, we should be able to quickly see if we got it all. There's one little spot right there I missed, and again you can just use black on it. You can actually paint it right here too. Makes it a little easier. Looks good. I think we got everything. So let's return back to our paintbrush. And there you have it, a die. And it looks pretty good, I think. If you wanted to change the colors, you could. You know, there's definitely like red and black dye, so you could change this to red. And this to even white. I've seen those. So there's no right or wrong way. It's just whatever you think looks good. If you wanted to get a little bit more advanced, let's say this was a really, really big prop in your scene, and you wanted it to kind of look like it had some scratches or some dirt on it. You know, there are a lot of things we can do to make those look like it has scratches and dirt on it. So let's say, for example, you can create a new layer right here, and this would be kind of like your scratchy layer, and in order to see it, I'm really going to have the light kind of at an angle here, because this is going to be pretty subtle. And I could turn off my color, I could turn off my height, my metal, my normal, just turn on roughness, and I could use, I don't know, something like this to kind of make it look like it's got some smudges. Let's see if there's any smudges under the brushes. Nope. Well, we can use just something like that. Let's see what that. And then let's turn our roughness up. And our flow is kind of low, and if you want to paint it higher, you can. But basically, you know, just on the edges, you can just make it look like, oh, people have been smudging this. So you got to be careful not to overdo stuff like that. This is going to be something that kind of just takes experience and time. It's an art to get this right. So I'm not going to ask you guys to do that too much right now. If you hold down Shift, you can kind of get it to follow a line, and if you look carefully, you can kind of see it's got just a few smudges on it now, which is good. You know, it's not bad. Make this brush bigger, and you can just kind of throw them around there, and you can see it if I get it in at an angle. Just see it's got a little bit of smudginess right there. You can paint that on. So if you want it to look a little bit more realistic, you know, you could do that, or not. A lot of times on the edges there might be like some scratches or something like that. You could even like really throw some texture on here if you wanted to. And in order to do that, let's say you could do the normals and the height, and pick a material. So let's say that we went with like a, I don't know, calf skin. So let's drag that over here. Calf skin height, calf skin normal. Let me change this to normal right here. So this might be a little confusing to understand right now, but we have a normal and we have a height, and that's all that's being affected. And under each one, the height is the height of calf skin, and the normal is the normal of calf skin. So if I were to paint on here, let's just use a regular, I don't know, basic hard brush. You can see what it's going to do is it's going to add that calf skin like that. And it's not affecting the color, it's not affecting the glossiness, it's just adding these bumps. And if you wanted to be like more subtle, you know, obviously, do something like that, and you can see just a little bit of bumpiness right there. And that's kind of how you can paint on these tiny little bumps and variations. We'll do much more of that later, but for now I think we have ourselves a good looking die, and that's all we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to file export this. Export this texture, and we're going to export it as Unreal Engine 4 packed, and you'll have to learn about how to get this into Unreal. It's a little complicated later, but PNG is fine. Tell it where you want it to go. I'll put it in my documents, and it's going to be calling it Lambert 1 because I didn't name it earlier. So when I export it, I go to my documents, you'll see that Lambert 1 should start to be, here we go, let's see it, SM die Lambert 1, base color, normal, and occlusion roughness. So here's the base color. I'm not sure what's going on with those red stripes. This is the normal map, and there's not really anything that we did with the normals. And then this is the roughness, metallic, and occlusion. And this is going to be a little confusing to how to get this into Unreal, but basically for now you can just drag the textures in there. And I'm not sure why those turned out red. That's really interesting. Probably because it was just empty space. It probably doesn't affect anything, so not important. But yeah, so then get all those into your Unreal project, and we'll talk about how to import them and what to do with them once they're there. Alright guys, thanks for watching.